Well, all right, welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Bortolino here, and well, it's time for another Ranking the Albums video. In fact, it's high time for another Ranking the Albums videos because I don't do these often enough. And one of the reasons why I don't do them that often is because it takes a lot of prep, and I'm lazy. So, but I really decided that it was time to do this particular one. I wanted to do rank the discography of a band where I did not know the discography, where I had to kind of go to it from scratch and listen to it from the ground up and get my initial impressions. And, well, that's ABBA. I'm ranking the 9 albums of ABBA. Now, I've always been a casual ABBA fan. I've always liked ABBA. I mean, basically, I go back to the 70s with ABBA. I mean, I remember when Dancing Queen and Knowing Me, Knowing You and Take a Chance on Me and Fernando and all that stuff was on the radio. Like, they were current hits that you heard all the time on the radio. And I liked those songs. I liked all those those singles, and every time for years, I mean, pretty much that never changed. Always, when I would hear those songs, I always liked them. But for some reason, it didn't really translate into I want to get an ABBA album, or at least not in the 70s or in the 80s or in the 90s. For the longest time, for decades, I was just happy with the singles on the radio. And there came a point around the 2000s when I kind of thought, you know, these songs are really good. Like, these are really great, high-caliber pop songs. I can't imagine that these records are great singles and then a bunch of filler. There's got to be some great stuff in there that I'm missing out on. I love the 70s. I love these ABBA singles. I should probably dig into these. I just thought, you know, I just had this feeling that at some point I was going to have my big ABBA moment, that I was going to become a big fan and start to love the albums. So I thought, well, okay. I went to the used record store to pick up an album back in the days, and this was the golden era when you could go to the used record store and everything was cheap. You could get the entire ABBA catalog for under $10 probably. I mean, you could get them in shrink with hype stickers and the whole thing for like $3. You could get copies in the dollar bin, whatever. Nowadays that shit's $20. But okay, so I went over and I grabbed a copy of Arrival, and I chose Arrival because it had Knowing Me, Knowing You, and Dancing Queen, which were 2 of the singles that I had loved in the 70s, and I thought, well, this is probably a good place to start. So I took it home and I put it on, and it opens up, as you know, as you ABBA fans know, with When I Kissed the Teacher, and I was like, I don't know about this. And I kind of went through, and admittedly, I didn't sit and like just soak in the album and listen to it. I kind of listened to a moment of each song and kind of went, I don't know, whatever. And I grabbed the self-titled, and I kind of did the same thing, whatever. And I kind of filed them away. And that was that for the longest time. And then, but I never kind of let go of this idea that I just knew, like, one day it's going to happen. One day I'm going to be an ABBA fan. I'm going to love these albums. I'm going to know them, and I'm going to be, it's going to happen at some point. I'm going to have my big moment. And well, that moment is right now. I've just now found my place. You know, the planets have aligned, the clouds have parted, the sun is shining, and I am now a bona fide ABBA fan. And now I decided that what I wanted to do was basically go through and just listen to each album and make notes on my first listen, and then just keep listening over the course of a couple weeks and kind of see how my opinions changed, and let them kind of settle in, do my ranking, which changed several times over the course of the couple weeks, and you know, and I've been actually picking up ABBA records. I mean, I've been going to eBay and Discogs and record stores and amassing as best I could actual vinyl copies, because I want to actually show them as I rank them this time, because I don't normally do that. And yeah, so there we go. I mean, here we are. Let's get started. Okay, so coming in number 9. Now, I want to preface this by saying this is going to be a very controversial pick. Very controversial. And I want to say, before I even tell you what it is, that there's going to be stuff later on in the video that you're going to agree with. There are going to be rankings later on in the video that you're going to agree with. But this one's going to be controversial. Well, come number 9, Super Trooper. Yeah, Super Trooper. Yeah, okay, so I have Super Trooper at number 9, and I know that you would probably put it higher. Well, I think one of the things is like, initially I had it higher. And, well, one of the reasons is because some albums, like the one I initially had at the bottom, really rose a lot over the course of this last couple weeks. Super Trooper I like it. There isn't a single album in this discography that I dislike. I think there's just something about it that I'm just not as into it. I don't know how to explain it. I'm just not as into it. Now, I fully understand that technically this is a better album than some of the albums I have above it. I know you're thinking, how could you possibly have this below Ring Ring? It's a better album than Ring Ring. I'm just not as into it. I'm just not as into it. I really like Super Trooper, the title track. Well, actually, I took notes. I took notes on all these, and I'm going to go over the notes here. Now, I have a track-by-track set of notes here. Now, 1980s Super Trooper. Okay, now, the first track is one that I really like, and I wrote, Lady Gaga was definitely listening to this. Good opener. Every time I hear, and by the way, every time I hear this song, I get in my head, Pooper Scooper, lots are gonna find me. So Pooper Scooper. That aside, the melody of the line "Feeling like a number one" is similar to "Yes, I think it's taking on a new dimension." The "Yes, I think it's taking on a new dimension" line from "As Good as New." It's really kind of similar to that, but I think it's a great track. I think it's easily one of the best tracks on the album. And I think it's a really, really strong opener. Some albums really have strong opening songs, I think, and some don't. This one does. Now, the second track, of course, is Winner Takes It All, which is one of their stone cold classic tracks, right? This was the biggest hit on the album. And I kind of remember it from the time. This is when I think ABBA wasn't as much on my radar when this record came out, but I was aware of it. And I wrote, good, well-written ballad that I'm just not that into. And for some reason, might grow on me, though. See, now that's the thing. I don't know why I don't really think this song... It's a good song. It's so good. It's well-written. I understand why people like it. But I personally am just not that into it. There's this early 80s blandness that I'm detecting that I may be wrong. I'm still... Keep in mind, all you ABBA obsessives who go back a gazillion years with them and have like 100 different ABBA items in your collection. I'm new to this, so I'm still in the early stages of sort of perceiving a lot of this stuff. And a lot of things that I don't like as much now, or I think are bland and don't really get my attention as much, are possibly things that are later going to be favorites of mine. Like that could very well happen. So, next is On and On and On. On and On and On, I wrote more proto Lady Gaga. I mean, come on, you guys, really. Does that not sound like Lady Gaga that sounds so much like a Lady Gaga song. I mean, granted, sorry, Lady Gaga sounds so much like this ABBA song. She was so clearly listening to this stuff. She was listening to this and Madonna, and there you go. Similar verse melody to Cool for Cats but from Squeeze. Yeah. And one of the better tracks on side one. I like that one. Even though it's proto Lady Gaga and I don't like Lady Gaga, I kind of like this track. But I'm not really that into it. Andante Andante is the next track, and I wrote, I could imagine Olivia Newton-John singing this melody. I could imagine Olivia Newton-John singing this song in Greece. And yeah, it kind of sounds like a Hopelessly Devoted to You, vaguely. Kind of in that vein, almost like the slightly country-tinged in Greece kind of vibe, while being 80s at the same time. I don't know. I wrote kind of hokey and bland. Bland is my word. It's my word of the week, or my word of the day. I don't know. But it's not my word for ABBA. Trust me. But kind of hokey and bland. Could be in a movie on the Hallmark Channel. Not a favorite. Yeah, I mean, and now I will say that I haven't decided if that song or another one is my least favorite, but we'll get to that in a minute. After that is Me and I. Now, Me and I wrote not a bad song, but the 80s production holds it back a bit for me. The vocoder on the Everyone's a Freak line is pretty cheesy. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, that song, if that was on one of their 70s albums with their 70s production, if that was on Arrival or The Album, or even on Voulez-Vous, oh, man. And I really like it. I mean, I like it pretty well on this album, but the 80s production holds it back for me from really being a song that I really love. Now, when we turn it over to side 2, we get to a song on this album that I really love, and that is Happy New Year. Man, I wrote amazing song, should be a standard, or at least that's what I thought until I actually paid attention to the lyrics, which are not celebratory. But man, what a song, Happy New Year. That is a song that I had never heard before, and one of my favorite discoveries going through this discography. The next song is Our Last Summer, which I don't have anything written for. I remember, I like that song, okay, but it's there's just nothing on this, not too many tracks on this album that are just really like, for me. Happy New Year is one of them, but Our Last Summer, I like. Don't love. The Piper is next, and I wrote possibly my least favorite track on the album, and that's all I wrote. Yeah, that was definitely, that one I don't really like much. Lay All Your Love on Me, Proto Madonna. Come on, guys. Lay All Your Love on Me. That is such a Madonna song, or rather, Madonna is so doing this ABBA song. Clearly, Madonna was listening to this album just like Lady Gaga was. Lady Gaga was listening to ABBA and Madonna was listening to this. And, evidently, as much as I can't stand Madonna, this is one of the better songs on the album. Yeah, definitely. And after that is the final track, The Way Old Friends Do. And The Way Old Friends Do, I wrote, recorded live at Wembley in late 79 with some studio overdubs added later in the year, which you guys all know. This track is majestic. Like Happy New Year, it has all the makings of a standard. And it definitely sounds like they are considering that this might be the last album, that this might be their final word. It definitely has that sort of, big end of the show, we're going to break up, and this, the ride has come to an end kind of vibe about it. But, of course, they still had one more album in them. And it's a really, really great track. Now, my favorite tracks on the album, my very, very favorite track on the album is Happy New Year. And, like I said, I can't decide between the Piper and Andante for my least favorite. On most of these, I have a least favorite and a favorite written down, but I guess I never got around to choosing my least favorite for this one yet, so you're getting 2 for the price of 1. Okay, so coming in number 8, Voyage. Yeah, Voyage. I really didn't want to put Voyage this low, because I really like the album, but, when it came right down to it, I guess this is the case. This is going to be the case throughout this entire thing. The albums above, I just like better. It isn't that I don't dislike this in a low on the level on the list kind of level. I just like the other albums more. But this is good. This is a perfectly good. For a reunion album that took 40 years, this is not bad. And the thing is that Bjorn and Benny, from Ring Ring to The Visitors, and then till now, their writing just gets better and better and better. Or more sophisticated and more adult. It kind of started out being a little cheesy, Ring Ring and, Bang a Boomerang and all that kind of stuff. And then the themes started to get a little bit more serious, or they started to get a little bit more adult a little bit later on. But just the quality of the lyrics just has gotten better and better over all of the albums. And this one is no exception. I think the lyrics on this album are really great. There are some songs on this that I didn't like as much initially, because there's a lot of slow songs on this album, and I was a little kind of bummed. I was always bummed that, or I have been bummed over the course of this last couple months that this record has been out, that like half the record are it's ballads, half of it, and I feel like there just needs to be more upbeat material. And so there were certain songs that I would kind of listen to for a minute and go, it's just another ballad, and go to the next one and go, oh, Just a Notion, great, right? But the other night, I kind of went through this, and I listened to some of these songs while reading the lyrics. That just completely transformed some of these songs. I'll talk. Let me go over my notes here, and I'll get to the songs. Now, starts, of course, with "I Still Have Faith in You," which, of course, was the first song we heard before the record came out, and I do think I like the song, but I think it's a terrible opener. terrible opener. I mean, I don't know really out of all these songs what would be the opener. Maybe they just needed another upbeat song to put as the opener. And I would be okay with just a Notion. Actually, I think would be a really great opener. I know it's a vault track from '78, and it would be kind of weird to open up this reunion album after 40 years with an old song, but strictly as a track, as a song, it just seems like the best opener. I Still Have Faith in You is just so... It needs to be later in the album, but I like it. So I wrote... I like this song... Oh, okay. Well, I wrote exactly what I just said. It makes no sense as an opener, and I wish it wasn't the opener. There you go. All right, so track number 2, When You Dance With Me, I wrote, good new Schlager tune. Yeah, I mean, I when this record came out and I went straight to Spotify to listen to it, I skipped the first song because I already knew it, went straight to the second song, and immediately was like, man, this is really, like, this just sounds like ABBA. Like, it doesn't sound like old ABBA, it just sounds like ABBA. And so I've liked this song from the moment I heard it. Track number 3, on the other hand, Little Things. I don't know if I'm ever going to like Little Things. It's just a little too... I don't know. It's just a little too cheesy for me. It's a little too, little kid, Christmassy. It's just... They should have left it off the album and put it out as a standalone single in December and put something else on this record that was upbeat. Just another upbeat track in place of that, and had that just be a Christmas single on its own. I think that would have been better. I still wouldn't like the song, but, it'd be nice if this album wasn't bogged down by it. Now, the next song after that is Don't Shut Me Down, which also came out along with I Still Have Faith in You. Love that. Immediately, it was just like, damn, I cannot believe how much this sounds like just a really good classic ABBA track. And that's one of the things that really blows me away about this album. A lot of people have given this album a lot of grief and don't rate it very highly. And there's even people who said that Agnetha and Frida, they have older voices, they don't sound as good vocally. And I mean, if you listen really close, I guess you can hear that they're older, but man, I would say they're about 90% there. Like, they sound pretty damn good. I don't have any problem with it personally. I think their voices have held up pretty well. Now, yeah, Don't Shut Me Down. I mean, late 70s ABBA vibes. It's just a little bit of that, just a little bit of a disco kind of vibe. It's great. It's a great track. The last track on side 1 is Just a Notion, which I already mentioned, which is a Voulez-Vous outtake. And man, I not only is that my favorite song on this record, I'm sorry, it's unfair to the new songs to like the vault track the best, but it's just like this exuberant, great 1978 track. I mean, how could you possibly compete with that? Even with great new tracks, you can't compete with that. So there you go. So side 2 opens up with one of the songs that I initially kind of disregarded. I Can Be That Woman. Now, I wrote here, this is an amazing song. At first, I disregarded this track as yet another slow song on the album. But when I sat and I really had a proper listen while reading the lyrics, it kind of blew my mind. And, yeah, I mean, I read the lyrics while listening to it, and... I got emotional. I was like, wow, this is such an incredible piece. Bjorn is a really underrated lyricist. Yeah, I know. Like I said, the lyrics on the earlier records are pretty questionable, but he's just gotten better and better and better over time, and he's on his game on this record for sure. Now, the next track on side 2 is Keep an Eye on Dan, another great lyric, and a song that, regardless of the lyric, I liked from the get-go, right the minute I listened to it. A little 80s. It kind of sounds like it could have been on one of the either The Visitors or Super Trooper, and I like it. I think it's a great one. Bumblebee, that's one of the slow songs that I've kind of went, another slow song, and I haven't really found my way with it yet. It's still a little bit of, I haven't latched onto it yet. I don't even have any notes for it. No doubt about it. One of the much-needed upbeat, I already used the word exuberant earlier. This is an exuberant track. This is just like bouncy and fun, and they sound young on it. There's a youthful energy on this track that they should not be able to bring, but they're bringing it. Okay, and then of course the last track on the album is "Ode to Freedom," and "Ode to Freedom," and yeah, you know, that's a track I think I still have to find my way with that track. I like it. It's really kind of simple, and you know, I don't know. I have a lot to say about that track. I think that's one of those tracks that I'm going to need more time with. Although I do actually like it, I just think I'm going to like it more in the future, and have more to say about it in the future. So there you go. Okay, so coming in at number 7, Ring Ring. Yeah, the one album I actually don't have a physical copy of yet is Ring Ring, and I actually do have one on its way. I actually bought one from some guy in Stockholm, and it's on its way. But I mean, with the mail the way it is these days, and coming all the way from Sweden, if I waited to make this video until I got that record, you may not be seeing it till next year. So I mean, I decided that this one album I'm just going to do the pop-up. So Ring Ring. Now, I like this album a lot more, I think, maybe than I should. I think I probably like it. Well, clearly I like it a lot more than a lot of people do, because most rankings that I'm seeing, invariably people have this at the very bottom, and I understand why. I mean, it makes sense. I'm a little bit of a sucker for this sort of those early 70s vibes, and there's so many songs on it that I really like. I mean, I really love the self-titled. Like when I first put the record on, when I went to Spotify. I know you're not supposed to do that, and Spotify is terrible, but you know, the record was there, so I went to listen to it, and so I went to Spotify and I put it on, and Ring Ring, great opening track, and then the second track, Another Town, Another Train, and then the third track, Disillusion. I was just like wham, bam, bam, going, damn, this is a really great album. I thought this is going to rank really high, but then it kind of ended up dipping after that. Like it comes out really, really strong at the beginning, and I think it's really strong at the end. The middle's a little bit of a mixed bag. And but I just really like the overall style and vibe, and just that the sound of that era is something that I like so much, and I really like some of these songs so much that basically, there are a lot of songs that are subpar on this, but the songs that I really like on this, I like so much that it sort of buoys the album. It kind of brings it up. I'm a 70s guy. I always say this. I'm a 70s guy, and so I'm going to put my glasses back on. I should just be wearing them the whole time, I know, but I'm going to go over my notes. So, Ring Ring, 1973. The first song, Ring Ring, like I said, love that one. Strong pop single. Sounds like fully formed ABBA right out of the gate. And Neil Sedaka, as you ABBA fans know, wrote the English lyric. Because originally there was a Swedish version, but then they also did an American version because they didn't want us to be stuck in Sweden. They wanted to become international. So they did an English version, and they got Neil Sedaka and Phil Cody to do the lyric, which they did. Great track. Great opening. Well, that isn't their very first single, but it's a great album. Great track. Next track, second track, is Another Town, Another Train. Bjorn lead vocal. A lot of Bjorn lead vocals on the first couple records. Overtly early 70s with flutes or recorders. I'm not really sure what that is. And it has, I wrote, slight Me and You and a Dog Named Boo vibe. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of a Me and You and a Dog Named Boo kind of thing going on with this. But this song is 1,000 times better than Me and You and a Dog Named Boo. Third track, Disillusion. Strong ballad co-written by Agnetha and Bjorn. The only song, as you ABBA fans know, that Agnetha wrote on any ABBA album. She does the lead vocal, and very close second to Ring Ring for my favorite track on the album. There you go. Now, track number 4 is People Need Love. Now, that's actually ABBA's very first single, and I think it's a lame song. I think it's a totally lame song. The record starts to hit some rocky territory at this point. I wrote, ABBA's debut single, hippie pop, very generic early 70s pop track of the type the New Seekers might have recorded. The na 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 section sounds like it was lifted directly from Elton John's Take Me to the Pilot. Come on, right? And I could easily imagine this on one of the Brady Bunch albums. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, as I go back to some of these records, or have over the last couple of weeks, gone back to some of these records and listened to some of the songs I didn't like as much, and they've gotten kind of better, I don't know if I'm really ever going to like this one. It's lame. But the next track, I really didn't like the first time I heard it. I saw it in the mirror. Bjorn's lead vocal, slow, plodding. I really didn't like that when I first listened to it. In fact, I immediately went, okay, least favorite song on the record. But I kind of like it a little bit more now. I mean, this is one of those that might grow for me, but I still don't think it's great, but I don't dislike it. Last song on side 1 is Nina, Pretty Ballerina. Great. This is a great song that really kind of, like, a lot of this album, ABBA doesn't really know what they're doing yet. Like, they haven't found their sound. They're throwing things at the wall and seeing if they stick. And they're trying all these different styles because, of course, they want to do the Eurovision thing. So they're trying to figure out, let's do this, and this, and see what would work. This track is like ABBA hitting on ABBA. I don't know if they knew it yet, but this is ABBA doing ABBA's style, and it's great. Strong classic Frida Agnetha joint vocals I wrote. Decent track. Not bad, not great, kind of Partridge Family-ish. Well, that was my initial reaction to the song. I actually like that song much, much better now. Now, side 2, Love Isn't Easy, but it sure is hard enough. Now, this song I have is a little weird for me. Let me read what I wrote. I wrote, I like the trading of vocals between Bjorn and the girls. The guitar-driven part, where the girls' lead vocals come in, is really cool and reminds me of the dynamic pre-chorus of Mamma Mia. Almost gives you a very brief preview of the Tiger vibe. And don't like the chorus much. Now, therein lies the problem. I really like that part. I love that so much, and I like the opening too, the like kind of little country lead guitar opening. But I think I just don't like the chorus that much, so it really, really dogs this track. We'll see. Maybe one day I'll have a epiphany and I'll love the whole thing. Could happen. Next track is Me and Bobby's Brother, and I wrote bouncy early 70s bubblegum pop tune. Could imagine this on one of Mama Cass's early solo albums. Right? Okay, so which is not a bad thing. I love Mama Cass. Her early 70s solo albums are a mixed bag, but yeah, this is definitely like that style of a song, isn't it? I'm not really heavily into it, but it's not a bad track. The next track is He Is Your Brother, and I wrote Bjorn trades lead vocals with the girls, stomping rhythm with just a bit of rock and country tinged guitar. Sounds like they recycled the brief section of the song for When You're Gone, How Can I Even Try to Go On from SOS. There's like a brief little moment there where it's like where it seems like they kind of recycled a bit for SOS. I don't know. I don't know. Has anybody noticed this? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. This stuff's new to me. So the next song is She's My Kind of Girl. Now, this is a pre-ABBA track. This is a Bjorn and Benny 69-70 track before there was an ABBA. And they put it on here. It ended up being the B-side of Ring Ring for whatever reason. And it's on the international version of the record. The original Swedish record has 2 versions of Ring Ring. It opens with the Swedish version, and then in this spot it has the English Ring Ring. Well, on the international version of the album, which is the one I'm ranking here, has this track. Great track. And I wrote great Beatle-esque pre-ABBA Bjorn and Benny track recorded in 1969. Ended up at B-side to Ring Ring Ring, all the stuff I already said. Sounds like some of the 60s Bee Gees stuff, okay? And makes me wish there was such a thing as 60s ABBA. 60s ABBA, come on. I really imagine if they'd gotten together in like 67 or 68 and there was a couple of really great late 60s ABBA albums. Whoo, I bet they would be good. Well, because if they could have gone through their sort of growing pains and they're kind of figuring out what they wanted to do, maybe in 67, 68, in 69 they could have had a really good album, I think. Who knows? And the next track is I'm Just a Girl. Now, I like this track a lot. I wrote here, sounds like Ray Conniff singers doing Burt Bacharach. Sounds nothing like ABBA, but I like it. Yeah, it just sounds like a Ray Conniff singers song, but it sounds like the Ray Conniff singers if I liked the Ray Conniff singers. Okay, and then the last track is a track called Rock and Roll Band, and that's solid. I wrote solid rock pop track with a bit of heavy guitar, yet another Bjorn lead vocal. Yeah, I really like that track, and yeah, there you go. And I have sort of an overall kind of thing here where I wrote fun debut that starts out very strong, dips a bit for much of the middle, then comes back strong again at the end. Bonus track Merry Go Round, and oh yeah, that's right. The bonus tracks. Merry Go Round and Santa Rosa. I think this album would be better if those songs were on the album. I realize those are also non-ABBA tracks. Like, I don't think Agnetha and Frida are on those tracks, but replace a couple of weaker tracks that they don't really figure into, and I don't know. I just think this album would be stronger with those songs, and yeah. So there you go. My favorite song on the album is Ring Ring, and my least favorite is People Need Love. There you go. Okay, so coming in number 6, Waterloo. Yeah, Waterloo. Now, Waterloo and Ring Ring was a little difficult to decide which I knew they were kind of probably going to be back to back because they're really pretty close in quality. I feel they're kind of the same era. I mean, they basically, ABBA still hasn't fully figured things out yet with this record. They're still doing that thing where they're doing anything and everything and throwing it to the wall to see if it sticks, because of course they're still doing the Eurovision thing, and you never know which song. Yeah, they're just trying to figure that out, and they're trying to figure out their band. Now, I guess really Waterloo is a stronger album than Ring Ring, but it definitely has a lot of, there's some growing pains happening here, all right? Now, of course, this is the first album where they're billed as ABBA, because on the first album they were Bjorn and Benny and Agnetha and Annifrid. And on this album, finally, they're actually ABBA. And, the thing about this album, I think I like more songs on this album than I do on Ring Ring, but one of the problems with this record is that the two weakest tracks, in my opinion, are very early in the album. I mean, like side 1, like there's a big, huge chunk in the middle of side 1 that just sucks, in my opinion. And but most of the rest of the songs I actually really like quite a bit. And also, like the first album, there's a lot of Bjorn lead vocals, and there's even a Benny lead vocal on this one. And I'm all for Bjorn lead vocals on the albums, but maybe just one or two. I just they the first couple albums just have too many Bjorn sung tracks on them, and and I like Bjorn's voice and I like him singing tracks. I just think there needs to just be one or two is good, and fortunately after this album they kind of figured that out. But anyway, let's get to my notes here and see what do we got here. Okay, so Waterloo, 1974. Of course, the opening track, the title track, Waterloo. That's like their big breakthrough. I mean, they already were kind of a thing in Sweden because they were kind of a thing right out of the gate, because each individual person already had a career and a name, and so they were like a supergroup. But Waterloo is the moment when they explode out, just expand past Sweden, and they did the Eurovision Song Contest thing, and this was like their big Beatles on Ed Sullivan moment, or their Bowie doing Starman on Top of the Pops moment, and they became instant stars with this. And I wrote great classic single we all know, total glam, buoyant, song that broke ABBA and blah 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 blah, everything that I just said. Yeah, come on, Waterloo. What are you gonna do? Second track is Sitting in the Palm Tree, and this is one of the songs I do not like on the album. Tropical reggae-ish track with Bjorn on lead vocals. Overall, not my bag, but I really like the Agnetha and Frida sung breakdown section. Should be buried later in the album. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I guess as I listen to it more, I don't outright hate this track, but I don't really like it much, and it should just be late on side 2 or something. Second track, come on, guys. But this now gives way to track 3. King Kong Song. King Kong Song. Rhythmically lumbering intro makes you imagine King Kong stomping through the city. Fairly rockin', if slightly weird pop tune complete with screams of terror from A&F. Arguably the worst album or ABBA track from what I've read. Bjorn also thinks so. And yes, absolutely the worst ABBA track. When I wrote that, I hadn't really gone through everything yet, so I didn't know for sure that it was the worst, but I can tell you now, it's by far the worst. Easily my least favorite on this record. Okay, this song is shit. Why is it on the album at all? And if it's got to be on the album, why is it this early? You need... guys, you're not putting your best foot forward here, all right? Yeah, King Kong Song sucks, and I know that I'm not in the minority with this. I know a lot of you guys agree. Bjorn agrees. So, next track is Hasta Mañana. Agnetha lead vocal, doing her best Connie Francis over a Schlager-style backing. Yeah, you know, it's not really one of their more substantial tunes, but I like the track. And this is, I think, a grower too. I think this is one that I'm going to like more over time. But I like it as is. Next track, My Mama Said. One of my favorite songs on the album. Funky R&B tune sung by Agnetha and Frida with a jazz guitar solo. Yeah, that's Mama Said this is a 74 album, and they're kind of already hitting on a little kind of funky, almost kind of disco-y vibes. I mean, they're I don't know. Are they getting on the ground floor of the vibe, man? Okay, so the next track, Dance While the Music is Still going on. Dance While the Music Still Goes On. Sorry. Phil Spector-ish vibe with a Be My Baby Latin rhythm. Yeah, I mean, really, so most of this side I really like, but there's just 2 crap tracks that are just like, bam, like the second and third tracks on the album. What gives, guys? What are you thinking? So, side 2 starts with Honey Honey, which was one of the singles. This is kind of like a B-level single. You know, when I first listened to it, the honey honey kind of thing, that sort of Claudine Longet honey kind of thing really kind of annoyed me. But the song has grown on me a lot. What did I write? I wrote, the way they sing Honey Honey is slightly annoying, but otherwise I really like this one. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba part I really like a lot, and yeah, this is a song that I've grown to like, and I think I'm going to like it more as time goes on. Watch Out, Bjorn lead vocal. This is one of their their early rock tracks. Glammy guitar rock tune with a dancey beat. A bit generic, but I'm okay with it. Yeah, this is not one of my favorite songs on the album, but I don't dislike it. I mean, I wouldn't put it in the shit category with, King Kong Song. Song after that is What About Livingston? And that's, what did I write? Bouncy pop tune, sounds like something that would be performed on a 70s variety TV show. Yeah, I mean, or even a kids' TV show or something. I mean, it's a good bouncy pop track. Gonna Sing You a Love Song. Now, this is one of the dark horse tracks on this album, in my opinion. Good song, I wrote, but the chorus rhythm has a very odd timing. I can't find the groove. Yeah, initially, when I listened to this, I would go back to it, and the chorus comes in, and I would be like, my equilibrium would be thrown off. I wouldn't be able to find the groove of the chorus, but I actually ended up figuring it out. ABBA, they're just throwing those little tricks in there. But yeah, that's one of the best songs on the album, I think. But speaking of one of the best songs on the album, Susie Hang Around. Susie Hang Around. Ooh, what a track. And I wrote, Benny's only lead vocal on an album. Jangly guitar, another 60s Bee Gees type track, very Morris Gibb. In fact, Benny's voice sounds kind of like Morris Gibb. And I've heard and I've read a lot of comments from people complaining about Benny's voice, like he's not very good. Benny sounds great. Like I said, he sounds like fucking Maurice Gibb. What more could you want? Wish there were more tunes like this one. Yeah. And then, of course, it closes with the U.S. remix of Ring Ring, which they kind of tried to give it a little bit of a, that glammy, reverb, heavy Waterloo kind of sound. It's pretty good. They kind of pitched it down a bit, but whatever. I mean, it's kind of a throwaway track if you already have the first album. So, yeah. But I don't think this is a bad album. It just has, it definitely has some negative things about it. It has a little bit of, those the second and third track. But otherwise, I like this record. This record a lot. Okay, so coming to number 5, The Visitors. Yeah, The Visitors from 1981. Their final album before the reunion album. And of course, this album as well as Super Trooper are both sort of post-breakup of the couples. And, that's creeping into the lyrics on both albums. Now, for the longest time, or initially I was kind of lumping this in with Super Trooper, and I kind of thought they would probably be back-to-back in the ranking. But as I got more familiar with them, I realized that this album, not only do I like it much, much better than Super Trooper, but it's a much darker, much more adult, much more sophisticated sort of record. It's the most sophisticated record of their initial run, I think, and definitely the best lyrics out of any of the albums in their initial run. And yeah, I mean, this is actually the only. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. This is the only ABBA album where I like every single song. There's not a single song on it that I don't just like really, really like. Now, you would think that would mean I should put it up at the top at number 1, right? But there's just so many other little factors. It's a complicated thing. But I have it at number 5. I think I had it initially a little lower, but it's getting better and better with each listen. So who knows? It could rise even more. But what do I have to say in my notes here? Okay, of course, track 1, title track. Isolated and paranoid lyrics, a much cooler 80s synth pop sound than Super Trooper, and a very strong opener. Yeah, it's a very, very strong opener. It's great. Now, track 2 is a little bit more pop, but with a dark sort of undercurrent, right? And I like the weird keyboard tone on the intro. That's all I wrote. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a really strong single that really should have been much bigger. And anyway, so the next track, When All Is Said and Done, I didn't write any notes for. And Soldiers. I didn't write any notes for When All Is Said and Done and Soldiers, but I really love those tracks. I mean, I think both of those tracks are strong. I don't, like I said, there isn't a single track on this whole album that I don't think, not only that I don't dislike, but I think is really strong. Every single track is strong on this record. I Let the Music Speak is the opener on side 2, and I wrote, sounds like Tim Burton on Broadway. A fairly stunning piece, actually. And yeah, I mean, it's not only because of the sophistication of the sort of, Bjorn and Benny are very much pointing in where they're going to go after ABBA ends with some of this stuff. And this is definitely one of those cases. And the lyrics are really great. Such a good track. One of Us, another track I really love. I don't have any notes for. 2 for the Price of 1. I wrote one of my favorite Bjorn sung tracks. Yeah, I mean, I am really surprised that there's a Bjorn sung track this late in the catalog. I mean, maybe the fact that they had Does Your Mother Know, which was a hit, maybe that kind of, paved the way for him to still be able to sing tracks even later in the catalog. But yeah, I think this is a really great one. Slipping Through Your Fingers, speaking of great tracks, I wrote one of the best songs written about one's kid. People's songs about their kids are usually awful, but this one is very well done. My favorite song that somebody's written about their kid ever is Sarah by Thin Lizzy. But man, this is up there. This is a really, it's not sappy, it's not Hallmark cardy, it's just really well written. And I think a song like this will tug at your heartstrings more than the kind of saccharine type songs that people usually write about their kids. And of course, the last track is Like an Angel Passing Through the Room, which is ghostly and sound, you know, the last track on Super Trooper sounds like it's supposed to be the last track of ABBA ever. Didn't end up happening. Well, this one is the same. This one has that, like, this is it, guys. It's over, and our ghosts are kind of floating off into the sunset. Great, great, great track. Great closer. Great album. I think maybe the fact that it's 80s is probably what holds it back, keeps it from ranking above the albums that I have above it. But also, I mean, the records that I have above it, even though there are songs that I don't like as much, like I don't find the other albums as consistently great as this one, the highs on those albums I love even more than any song on this album. So actually, that's really why this album is below the stuff I have up above it. And my favorite song on this album, my favorite track I have written here, Head Over Heels, and my least favorite is the Bjorn track. And that's only because this is the album where I had the most difficult time deciding what my least favorite track was, because every track is of high caliber quality. And in the end, I ended up having to go with the Bjorn track because the chorus is like the one moment in the whole album where that's just a little bit lower than the rest of the album. So it's like, okay, since it has that, that'll be my least favorite track on the album. There you go. Okay, so coming in number 4 is the album that has risen the most on this list over time. I initially had this dead last. This was my least favorite album. In fact, initially, I didn't like this album much at all. I liked 2 songs on it and just thought, found this album really disappointing. But boy, did it rise just over the last week. Voulez-vous? Voulez-vous? Yes. Okay, so now, I mean, initially, all I liked from this album were the singles. I just was into the singles. Now, see, I don't mind disco. In fact, I like disco. I like some disco stuff, but I felt like the disco stuff on this record was kind of generic and bland. Like, I felt like the songs weren't that strong. I felt like they were only, like, As Good As New and stuff like that. I felt like these songs were relying more on being disco than on the songs. I felt like the fact that they were disco was kind of more what they were about than I didn't feel like the songwriting was just that it was there. But it's a grower. This album is a grower. I mean, I think for a lot of people, this album's immediate. For me, this album has proven to be a grower. I mean, Jesus, I mean, it went from number 9 to number 4. So, I mean, I've really definitely found my place with this record. There's still some songs that I don't like as much, but it's a good album. I mean, let's get into the track by track notes here. Now, of course, the opening track, As Good As New. I wrote, love the symphonic opening riff and the ma part. Otherwise, I find it to be a very generic disco/funk workout. And now, a lot of these notes are going to be my first impression notes. And I kind of, in a way, I still feel that way about this song, but it's definitely, I'm softening up on this track. I'm softening up on it. Voulez-vous, of course, is one of the singles on this song, and on this album. It's one of the disco tracks, but I think it's the strongest disco track. I mean, like, it's a good song. I think maybe the fact that I remember it from the 70s probably gives it a little bit of an edge. But, so I Have a Dream, the third song, I wrote, Schlager ballad, nothing too special. Yeah, I like this song, but it's not really one of the better tracks on the album. It's okay. Angel Eyes, I think is a really, from what I'm gathering and reading and seeing, a lot of people really like this one. What did I write? I wrote generic disco pop with a bit of a foretaste of where they would go on the next album, Super Trooper. Okay, yeah, it's just a little bit. It's almost kind of anticipates some of the vibe of the next album, but still disco-y at the same time. I don't know. That's the way I heard it, at least. And I feel like I've heard this melody on some other song from the mid-'70s. It's okay, definitely don't dislike it. Yeah, this isn't one of my favorite songs on the album. Definitely don't dislike it. But the next song, the final track on side 1, The King Has Lost His Crown. Man, best song on side 1 by far. In fact, I believe, let me look what I wrote. Yeah, definitely. My very favorite song on the album. This is my favorite song on the album. I don't know if this is I don't know if that's a popular choice for favorite song on Voulez-Vous, but man, I love The King Has Lost His Crown. That's one of the songs, because they did this album they kind of initially tried to write for this album and were recording and having a lot of trouble, and they felt like they weren't finding their way with it. Like they weren't that happy with some of the tracks, and they just kind of went, and then they kind of, Bjorn and Benny went to like the Bahamas and kind of hung out in the discos and stuff and looked for other inspiration, and then came back and of course wrote a bunch of disco songs. But one of the songs that made it on this record from that initial batch was this one. And I think it's, for me personally, like I said, it's the best song on the album. Now, side 2 opens up with Does Your Mother Know? And now the bridge of that song, take it easy, but like total ELO. It sounds like one of the ELO songs from when ELO was doing disco, because of course in the late 70s, everybody and their mother, from the Rolling Stones to, to the Grateful Dead, for God's sake, to ABBA, to ELO, were doing disco songs. And one of those late 70s, like 79 ELO disco songs, that one bit on Does Your Mother Know totally reminds me of that. And I remember that song when it was on the radio as a kid, but I didn't know it was ABBA because it was a guy singing. And, ABBA doesn't have guys singing in it, does it? But then one day I saw a commercial on TV for like a K-Tel comp or something like that had this song on it, and they showed just like a split second of the video, and it was like, oh shit, this is ABBA. Oh, one of the guys is singing. Oh, okay. But anyway, that's a great single. Next is If It Wasn't for the Nights. Now, this song was initially supposed to be the opening, like the first single from the album. Like they had it slated as the first single, and then they wrote Chiquitita for UNICEF, and they kind of put this one aside and went for Chiquitita, which of course became a big hit, and in my opinion, is a much stronger song. And I wrote here, originally slated to be the first single off the album, but then Chiquitita popped up, fairly generic disco-tinged pop, but certainly not bad. Yeah, that was my initial opinion of the song. I like the song. I like the song much, much more than I did initially. In fact, I think I like overall side 2 a little bit more than side 1. I think side 2 is a little stronger. Side 2 is a little less disco-y, and like I said, I don't dislike disco. I like disco stuff, but yeah, the songwriting has to be there. I should qualify that, though. I mean, I do like stuff like, say, Fly Robin Fly. I mean, there's no song there, but yeah, I don't know what to tell you. The next song after that is Chiquitita, which, is Chiquitita. What is there to say about that? Great track. Written and performed for UNICEF. Song after that is Lovers Live a Little Longer. Now, this one I liked right away. I really liked the weird sort of descending half step. Lovers a little longer, yeah. Like, I don't think this is a really highly regarded track, or I was reading some reviews of the album and people were like, oh yeah, that song. Man, I think that's a great track. I think that's one of my favorite songs on the album. And then, of course, the last track is Kisses of Fire. And I wrote, perfectly okay track, not bad, nothing special. I wrote that about a lot of these songs. Yeah, that was my initial reaction to quite a lot of this album, but I'm really, really, really finding my way with it. And, yeah, like I said, it rose to number 4, so there you go. That tells you everything you need to know, right? And, like, my favorite song on the album is The King Has Lost His Crown, and my least favorite is Kisses of Fire. But, man, a good album that I think I'm probably only going to like more over time, so, all right. Okay, so coming in number 3, ABBA, the album. ABBA, the album, complete with Crazy Eddie sticker for you East Coasters there, yeah. I decided to pop over to Crazy Eddie and get myself a copy of the album. And, yeah. So now, my top 3 albums on this list, all 3 of them were number 1 on the list at some point during this process. Initially, this was going to be my number 1. But I still love it, but it's gone down to number 3 because my top 2 are just undeniable, in my opinion. This is a really great half album for me. And what I mean by that is, like, the whole album's good, but side one, this album is so front-loaded. Side one is absolutely flawless. Side two is good, but I think side one is twice as good. Like, everything on side one. I mean, come on, Eagle, Take a Chance on Me, One Man, One Woman, you know, The Name of the Game. I mean, it's all singles except for the third track, and every track is strong, I think. Now, side two is, you know, all those tracks are strong too. I just don't think they're even half as good as side one. Now, before you get your panties in a bunch there, I feel the same way about Band on the Run, Paul McCartney and Wings. That's like the big classic McCartney and Wings album, great album. But man, side two on that album isn't even half as good as side one. It's all about side one. So, you know, this album's in good company. So, but side one is just, it's a perfect album side. Now, for my notes here, Eagle, opening track. Now, epic opening track. By far my favorite ABBA opening track. By far. And in fact, this is one of my very, very favorite ABBA tracks. It's unbelievable. And when I first heard it, it was just like, this was before, I initially heard it before I started digging into the albums, and I thought, oh man, is this what these records are like? Oh my god, I'm really missing out. Well, no, it's not really what these albums are like. ABBA, they have so many different styles, and they do so many different things. They have so many songs that are one of a kind in their discography, and this is definitely one of those songs. But that's also a sign of great writers. People, writers who have that many songs that are one of a kind in a catalog. You know, that's great. Great writers. Okay, so now track number 2, of course, is Take a Chance on Me. You know, now when I was a kid, I thought they were singing "Ollie Oxen Free, Take a Chance on Me," but you know, I was a kid, so there's a mondegreen for you. But man, yeah, I loved that song in the 70s, and it has not gotten old. Decades later, I still love that track. One Man, One Woman, I wrote free to lead vocal, good catchy mid-tempo ballad. Yeah, I think I've seen videos from people talking about these albums and ranking these albums where they're like, oh yeah, that song's okay. Man, I think that's a great song. And The Name of the Game, it's The Name of the Game. It's a huge single. I don't need to describe this song. You know the song. Everybody knows the song. Okay, so side 2 is opens with Move On. Now, Move On, I'm not into the spoken word first verse of this. That kind of bugs me. But after that, like, the track's great. Like, it's a great track that kind of starts out problematic, to use a modern term. And that gives way to the second track on side 2, which is Hole in Your Soul. Now, initially, I had a lot of trouble with this song. Now, I wrote, this track is a mixed bag. Love the great upbeat verses, but not too big on the chorus with the cheesy, deep-sounding male vocals. Yeah, the whole hole in your soul. Yeah, at first that kind of annoyed me, and I didn't like it. But, you know, the more I listen to it, I'm still not a big fan of that part, but I can live with it. Like, that's a good song. And then, of course, this, after that is the 3 songs that run together that are supposed to be part of, like, a play or whatever, I don't know. But Thank You for the Music, I Wonder, and I'm a Marionette. Yeah, I mean, this is like Broadway stuff. Again, this is Bjorn and Benny kind of pointing towards where they're going to go after ABBA. This is my least favorite chunk of the album, but it's great. I mean, it's great stuff. You know, my least favorite song... Now, my favorite song, of course, on the album is Eagle. My least favorite song is I Wonder. But that doesn't mean it's a bad song. Thank You for the Music... That song is really all about the lyrics for me. I mean, that's one of those songs where I was kind of like, I don't know. But then I sat and I read the lyrics while I listened. And it was like, oh, you know, got misty-eyed. Because it's like, oh, yeah, you know what? You're talking to me. You're speaking... ABBA's speaking for me with this song. And probably so many of you. We all love music so much. And, yeah, I mean, it got a little emotional reading these lyrics for the first time while listening to it. So that definitely has brought that song up a bit. I'm a Marionette is probably the best of those 3 tracks. And you know, a great closer for the album. So, yeah, 1977's ABBA, the album. All right, it's coming to number 2. ABBA, Yes, the 1975 self-titled ABBA. And just like the album, this at one point was going to be number one. In fact, for the longest time, this was going to be number one, but then my number one ultimately overtook it. But yeah, this album is, I feel like it's a really strong bridge between the earlier kind of schlagery, glammy, kind of bubblegummy first couple albums, and then the later, more sophisticated ones. I think they really kind of figure out who they are and what they're doing musically on this album. They don't quite hit their stride with this album, but damn close. And of course I have it at number 2, so obviously I like it better than the other albums where they've hit their stride. I do, but I mean, let's face it, they're definitely, when they get to Arrival and the album and, and that kind of stuff, they really, like, know what they're doing and how to do it, and they've just got, they got their crutches on it, you know what I'm saying? So, let me go to the notes. My notes for the album self-titled is, the opening track, of course, is Mamma Mia. Opening track, Mamma Mia. I mean, come on. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, right there, that these guys, like, ABBA's basically arrived at this point, although they haven't quite arrived, if you know what I'm saying. Now, obviously a great, super solid opening track, and that gives way to the second track, which is Hey, Hey, Helen. Now, Hey, Hey, Helen, a lot of people, for some reason, whenever I'm reading people talking about these songs and kind of reviewing the records or whatever, people keep referring to this as a funky track. Hey, Hey, Helen is not a funky track. It's a rock track. It's like a straight-ahead, in fact, it's the most straight-ahead rock track in ABBA's catalog. I mean, it's as close to AC/DC as ABBA gets. But, so what did I write? I wrote glammy, heavyish guitar track with A and F on lead vocals. Love the guitar, love the keyboard break right before the final chorus. Yeah, and I've read many comments, blah, 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 everything that I just said. I mean, it all. Now, I've drawn up a top 20 ABBA songs list, and I might do that video later this week, or I might do it next week, or I don't know. But at some point, I'm going to do a top 20 ABBA songs video. That was initially not only on the list, but initially very high on the list. But then as I've gone through all this stuff and gotten to know the albums more, it's kind of fallen. But I really like that song. And I don't think it's that highly regarded of a track in their catalog, but I like it. That's because I'm a rock dude, right? All right, so the next track, Tropical Loveland. Lame track. I don't like it. Reggae tune, sung by Frida, least favorites by far. Yeah, I mean, really, I would put that down. I mean, it's not as bad as King Kong song, but easily my least favorite on this record. In fact, there are only 2 tracks on this record that I don't like. That's one of them. The next track is SOS. SOS. What do I need to say about that? SOS. Song after that is Man in the Middle. And now Man in the Middle is great. It's kind of got a slinky funky, it's like a slinky funky tune sung by Bjorn. It has a very cool sort of clavinet, keyboard, almost like they're trying to do a Stevie Wonder kind of vibe. Great track. And then the last track on side 1 is Bang a Boomerang. Great pop track, great total glam. Lame lyrics, but I think it's a really catchy, great track. Great glam pop track, was issued as a single in France with SOS as the B-side, if you can believe that, but it didn't chart very high. Could have and should have been a bigger hit. Yeah, I really think Bang a Boomerang, as unsubstantial as it is, I really enjoy that track. One of my favorites on this record. But then side 2 opens up with a super strong single. I do, however many I do's. I do 5 times 5. And total 50s Schlager style. Total 50s, with the sax and the whole thing. That was actually a bigger hit, I guess, than I really realized. I don't remember hearing that on the radio much. I kind of was aware of the song growing up, but kind of in the periphery. I love it now. I love this song more than I ever have now. The second track on side 2 is Rock Me. Now, that's one of the really, ABBA tries to do rock songs now and again. Sometimes it works, sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. Rock Me doesn't work that well. I mean, it's overtly glam. I wrote here, could be a Gary Glitter track. Not a favorite, but I wouldn't necessarily skip it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. This is not a skipper track, but it's not one of the stronger songs. Now, the next track, Intermezzo number 1, it's an instrumental track featuring Benny. It's like a Benny basically kind of showing, look what I can do. I'm not just a pop songwriter. I can do this. And, it's a perfectly good track, but on this album, it's filler because it just takes away from what the rest of the album's all about. So I kind of wish that, they could have had, I don't know, something a little stronger in its place on this album. But what are you going to do? Next track is I've Been Waiting for You. Now, this is, for me, I think this is the dark horse, or a dark horse track on this album. It's a really, like I read in somebody's interview that it was an unmemorable ballad that you forget before it's even over. I disagree, man. I think this is a great track, and one of my favorites on the record. And then, of course, it closes with So Long, which was one of the singles on the record. Wasn't one of the big singles, but it was a single, and it's very much kind of in the Waterloo vein. It's basically them trying to do Waterloo Part 2. But Waterloo is such a great song. There's enough gas in it for them to do a second one. I think it's a good track. It's even though it's an obvious attempt to redo that, I think it's a strong track. I love it. Anyway, so yeah, ABBA 75 self-titled. Okay, so coming in number 1. Anybody following along who knows his catalog knows what it's going to be. And, it's probably not too big of a surprise. I think I'm kind of in the majority, I think, maybe on this. Arrival. My favorite ABBA album. Now, initially that was definitely not going to be at the top. But the more I listened to it, the more I came to realize it's so good. It's like the best imperfect album. It's such an imperfect album because it has what I consider kind of a weird, kind of weak opener. When I Kiss the Teacher, I like that song okay. Like I'm starting to find my way with that track, but it is not a strong opener, and it's especially not a strong opener for this album. Because the quality, the caliber of this record, that is just not an opening track for this record. But it's okay, and I think it's basically bookended by weak tracks, because the end track, the last track, the title track, Arrival, yeah, the 2 weakest tracks, boom, bookended, beginning and end. But the entire middle, oh, Jesus, by far the best run. Sure, I like every song on The Visitors, but every song in between the first and last track on this album I love more than any song on The Visitors, even though The Visitors is more consistent. So, here we go. Opening track I mentioned, When I Kiss the Teacher. I wrote, really weird choice for an opening track. I think they should have opened with Dancing Queen and put this as maybe the side 2 opener. Yeah, you know what I mean? Dancing Queen should have been the opening track of this record. What were they thinking? And of course, Dancing Queen, of course, is the second track. What do I need to say about that? The third track, My Love, My Life. Oh my God, strong ballad with a great hit single worthy chorus. Yeah, and with the really lush bed of backing vocals where Benny and Bjorn were trying to do the 10cc I'm Not in Love thing. That they don't quite hit it, but it's still, man, what a track. The next track, Dum Dum Diddle. Now, Dum Dum Diddle is not a popular track in ABBA's catalog. In fact, they themselves don't like that song much. In fact, I think Frida straight up dislikes it, like it's her least favorite song in the album, in the catalog. Now, it was something that Benny kind of threw together last minute while they were making the record. But you know what? I really like it. I really, really like this track. The title is stupid. The the subject matter of the lyrics is questionable to say the least. But I just like this song. I don't know. I absolutely like this song. And the side closes with knowing me, knowing you. Knowing me, knowing you. Take two. Knowing me, knowing you is one of my very favorite ABBA tracks out of all of them. I mean, that I have loved that song since 1976. And that's never going to change. All right, so let's go to side number 2. Side 2, opening track, Money, Money, Money. Singles, just this record is just slopping over with huge singles. Money, Money, Money. I wrote, am I the only one who notices the similarities between this song and Poker Face by Lady Gaga, most notably in the verses? Come on. Nobody? You never noticed this before? Come on. Have another listen. Second song on side 2 is That's Me, dancey, slightly disco-ish track. Yeah, I mean, it's not one of the more substantial tracks on the album for me, but I really like it. I mean, I love every track but the first and last track. The next song, Why Did It Have to Be Me, Bjorn vocal, doing kind of a Happy Days version of 50s Fats Domino. But you know what? Totally works. On paper, this song should be really, really lame. Like, this should be the lamest song on the album, on paper. But you know what? I really like this track. I like it. The next track. Tiger. Tiger is my absolute... how do I put this? Tiger is the song that I am most excited to have discovered going through this whole catalog. It's my very favorite song that I didn't already know when I started doing this, when I started going into this. It's definitely the discovery of this whole endeavor, okay? I love this song so much. It's been stuck in my head every day for days now, and I'm not sick of it yet. I hope I don't get sick of it. Now, initially when I listened to it, I really loved the chorus, or the verses rather, like the total rock choruses, but then I kind of found the chorus a little disappointing initially, because I feel like the verses are so strong and just so punchy and so rocking on this song, and then I felt like the chorus sounded a little pedestrian compared to the verses. But I had my light bulb moment with the song when I ran across the music video for this song on YouTube, the one where they're driving around in the car and like Frida has the headband on, and that's such a great video. It's just like instantly when I saw that video, it all made sense. All of a sudden, boom! I just loved the entire song, the chorus, everything. Just like it just totally gelled for me at that moment. And now this is one of my very, very favorites, and definitely one of my favorites on this album, that's for sure, and one of my favorites in the entire catalog. Man, Tiger, what a song. And then, of course, the last track is the title track, Arrival, which is just this sort of... It's an instrumental, it's just sort of ambient, really. It's just... It's kind of like, for you Kiss fans, it's like the fractured mirror of this album. It's just this instrumental thing that doesn't go anywhere, that a lot of people seem to like. Everywhere I'm reading people's comments, fans talking about the album, people seem to really love this track, and I don't get it. Kind of like with Fractured Mirror on the Ace Frehley album. I find it a complete throwaway. Now, I think Fernando is a standalone single they did in 76, or that they put out late 75, or I guess early 76 they put it out. If that was on this album, they should have put that as the closing track on this album. If Fernando was the closing track on Arrival, are you fucking kidding me? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I mean, this album's already phenomenal. If you threw Fernando in at the end, game over. And okay, so my very favorite track on the album is Knowing Me, Knowing You, but Tiger's getting real close there. And my least favorite, Arrival. So there you go, man. There you go. That is my a ranking of the ABBA catalog. Now this, as I mentioned earlier, I'm new to this, so this is a very early kind of, this is still earlier impressions of these albums. I'm not trying to say that this is like the official ranking that everybody has to abide by. You need to have this ranking too. This is just my opinion, and this is my opinion as a newbie. It's going to change over time. And so, you know, so give me a break, all right? But yeah, so there you go, man. I'm now an ABBA fan, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm really, it's exciting getting to know these records, and I'm going to get to know them even more, and I'm going to start to love them even more. And hopefully my ring shows up from Sweden soon, because I'm really, really dying to get my little mitts on that. So anyway, this is kind of probably a long video. I should probably end it now. Thanks everybody for watching the videos, and sorry I didn't make one last week, but you know, I was really preparing for this, and I decided to just like really focus on this and wait for my records to come in the mail. The self-titled, the 75 self-titled, and that copy of Arrival, literally just came in the mail today. That's why I'm shooting this now, because I was waiting for those albums to show up, and I'm not gonna wait for Ring. So yeah. Thank you for everybody who's subscribing. Thank you for everybody who's commenting. And thank you for everybody who's liking. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you subscribe, click the little bell, because you're going to want to get notifications. Okay? And, comment if you have any fun stuff to say, or if you want to give me your ranking, or, tell me how stupid I am because I put, Super Trooper at the bottom. Whatever. Yeah. And there you go. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time.